Hello, we are back with this Premier League that just keeps giving more and more drama as the season closes and a definite champion of this Premier League comes by. But this Premier League that in the past it has always created headlines. It will always create headlines. But in this Premier League Matchday 36, definitely a lot of drama. And as we know, VAR has been part of a lot of drama this past year, this past 2 years for Premier League football. There's a lot of things that the fans agree with, the fans don't agree with, but that's just part of everything. Some people agree with things, some people don't agree with certain things. You cannot please everybody. So it's understandable where people come from and their arguments, but this Premier League has been the source of drama in this last scroll of the Premier League. And for those that don't know, esto es Pase Ambidiestro, Ambidextrous Pass, Fútbol Honestamente, Soccer, Football Honestly. But a Premier League that is on match day 36, a Premier League that has essentially turned the season into a two-horse sprint as Arsenal maintained their lead at the top with a 1-0 victory over West Ham thanks to a late Leandro Trossard strike. And Manchester City just keep with the pressure with a convincing 3-0 win against Brentford, ensuring that their game is in hand remains the most pivotal factor in the title race. Meanwhile, the battle at the bottom reached a fever pitch as Tottenham tied 1-1 against Leeds, left them just 2 points above now relegated threatened West Ham. So Tottenham gets lucky, you could say. Tottenham ties while West Ham loses 1-0. So this pushes on to the next match day and onto the next two match days where for the relegation zone, the battle is between West Ham and Tottenham being relegated and who stays in the Premier League for next season. But we're gonna go into this Premier League as we always do. Premier League that is on match day 36. And we're gonna start from the first game of this match day, which is Liverpool against a Chelsea. A game that ended tie. A clash of giants. Two big teams, part of the Big Six. And a game that ends tie with Gravenberch early strike that canceled out by an Enzo Fernandez equalizer as the two heavyweights play out in a tactical 1-1 draw. And the result leaves Liverpool in fourth place at the moment with 59 points, while Chelsea sits in ninth place with 49 points after 36 matches. News from the camp suggests that Liverpool hopes for a top three finish are now mathematically slim. And while Chelsea continues steady on a period of consolidation into the top half. A Chelsea that for this season, it looks very hard for them to play European football. The dreams have been shattered. So now they have to try to get this last compensation of the FA Cup against Man City. And something that they have to really work towards to make sure that they are able to get a trophy this season. Yes, this Chelsea won the Club World Cup, but that's in the past. Got to move forward. That's how football works. It's all about the match that is coming up and not what happened before. That's just football, and you have to accept that, yes, you made history, but there's still history to be written. So you got to move forward. But this Liverpool, so their fans being annoyed for the fact that Slot took out Rio out in the second half. And when the young teenager was having a great game, he was the one who assisted Cameron Birch's goal. And for Slot, it doesn't make sense to take out the kid who's having a great game, a kid that has been picking up rhythm and at times creating danger. Yes, he's young. He's been he's has been contributing. Yes, you always want your players to contribute more, but he's learning. He is making a he's progressing forward. And in this game, he's the one who creates the opportunity for Gabriel Barch to score that goal. So Liverpool fans just grew up frustrated. They applaud Rio when he came out, but they boo Slot for taking him out. And a player that's speaking of rhythm, it's understandable how the fans reacted. Slot, he is the one who manages his job. But if a player is playing well, giving you rhythm, creating, being dangerous, and is the reason why you tied this game, or at least was able to go and stay top in this game, why will you take him out? But at the end of the day, managers have to make decisions, and the fans, even the teammates, the players, they have to live with it. And then we have a Chelsea that have only been able to pick 1 point out of their last 7 games since match day 29. They have only been able to pick 1 point. Chelsea, that this tie helps them shift the mood to a degree. Yes, not fully, but it helps them shift the mood because it's against Liverpool. It's a big giant. It's one of the two of the big six going at it. And drawing against a Liverpool, it could say different things. Yes, Liverpool hasn't had the best season, but they have kept steady to at least be able to play European football next season. But this tie helps Chelsea just shift the mood to get ready for the FA Cup final against Manchester City. Manchester City, that yes, it has had a decent season. Yes, they have been second. They have been putting pressure on Arsenal. But Manchester City, that yes, they won a title already, but they're still fighting for these Premier League, and now they see themselves in the final of the FA Cup. But City, they are dominating within their game at the moment. They are getting the results they need to just keep going and apply pressure to those that are ahead of them. But Chelsea has to force a mood change if they really want to compete for the FA Cup, because they are not at the level of Manchester City. Statistically, by what the season has been, Chelsea is not at the same level as Manchester City as we speak. But every game is different. Every game brings something new. Every game gives different results. So yes, anything can happen, and we will see if Chelsea gives Manchester City a fight for the FA Cup. But then moving on, we have a Brighton against a Wolves. A game that ends 3-0 for Brighton, in favor of Brighton at home. A Brighton that dominated from the first whistle with goals from Jack Hinsfield, Luis Dunk, and Minte to secure the comfortable 3-goal victory. The Seagulls sit in the 7th place with 53 points as they push for European qualification, while Wolves remain in the bottom of the table with just 18 points. With this defeat, Wolves are officially relegated, but they have been relegated since 3, 4, 5 match days back. So they will be officially playing championship football, and they just will be playing the last 2 games of top flight football when it comes to English football. But then we have a Fulham against a Bournemouth. A Fulham that loses at home, a Bournemouth that wins as visitors. Ryan secured a vital away win for the Cherries in a match that overshadowed by disciplinary issues, with Anderson and Ryan Christie both receiving red cards in the second half. Bournemouth climbed to 6th place with 55 points, bolstered by the news that Junior Krupi recently equaled the Premier League teenage goal record, and Fulham remains in 11th place with 48 points, having safely avoided any late season relegation drama. And Bournemouth can secure European football in the next 2 match days, of course. Areola moving on from Bournemouth, and with rumors to go into Crystal Palace, even Manchester United. And yes, that those are topics. Yes, those are conversations. But what Areola has been able to do with this Bournemouth and keep this team alive and losing some important pieces to his team, to his starting 11, it has been able to keep this team alive and now is in the contingency to European football. It would have been a great project for him next year if he would stay at this Bournemouth because he already knows the player. He has built something. But all great things must come to an end one way or another. But then moving on, we have a Sunderland against a Manchester United, a game that ends 0-0. A resilient Sunderland side frustrated Manchester United in a scoreless draw at the Stadium of Light, significantly denting the visitors more points and feeling comfortable. Manchester United remain in third place with 65 points, having now officially clinched Champions League qualification despite the result. Sunderland moves to 12th place with 48 points, successfully securing their mid-table status following their return to top flight this season. So Sunderland will be staying in the Premier League. And in this game for Manchester United, they seem to be missing a key player, you could say, a key piece to their formation, to their squad, to their starting 11. And we see how affected they were by this, and we know who the player is, Casemiro. He's a major player with a major key role in the midfield, giving Fernandez and Kobe Mainu just some freedom and security for them to be able to play the football they play. But United was not able to put any sequences of passes or attacks to create danger in this game. And out of all this, in reality, out of all this, what comes out is a question that who can successfully replace Casemiro? And is United going to offer him a new contract? And how serious is that? Because yes, you hear things, but only the club, only the organization, the people who are part of the club, people who are part of the association will know what's actually going on. But who can actually successfully replace Casemiro, a player with the same characteristics as him? And at the same time, is Manchester United going to offer him a contract? And if they are, then for how long? Those are the only questions that come up for this Manchester United. That is evident they do need a player like Casemiro in the midfield. They do need him. He cannot leave this season because he's a major pillar in the midfield that has been making this Manchester United successful since Carrick picked it up. But moving on, we have a Burnley against an Aston Villa, a game that ended 2-2. Burnley showed immense fighting spirit with goals from Anthony and Fleming to salvage a point against Champions League chasing Aston Villa. This draw leaves Villa in 5th place, level on 59 points with Liverpool, but trailing on a goal difference in the race to 4th place. Despite the valiant effort, Burnley remains in the 19th place with 21 points and has been officially relegated following the results elsewhere this weekend. Then moving on, we have a Crystal Palace against an Everton, a game that ends 2-2. Another tie game. Ismail Sarr and Jean-Philippe Mateta scored for Palace in a seesaw encounter that saw Everton twice lead through James Traworski and Beto. Everton remains in the 10th place with 49 points. And continuing a steady campaign of consolation under their current management, Crystal Palace sits in the 14th place with 44 points. And while they are not mathematically safe, they are 5 points clear of the final relegation spot. Another topic that has been brought up about this Premier League is that 9 or 10 English clubs could qualify for European football. Crystal Palace is in the Conference League final and in the 14th place. If they win, then 9 English clubs could qualify, and this is why. So this final piece of the puzzle, a team finishing 9th or lower in the Premier League must win a major European trophy. That means the Champions League, the Europa League, or the Conference League, right? So the rule is that a European title winner earns an automatic spot in next season competition or the tier above. The result, because it is the title holder spot, it does not steal a place from the league's top 8. It is adding an extra seat at the table. So now comes the topic of a 10th place. If two different teams from ninth place or lower win two different European trophies, one wins the Europa League and the other wins the Conference League, because we know Aston Villa, if they drop, they are fifth place at the moment. So if you have an Aston Villa, an Aston Villa that is in fourth place, and an Aston Villa that drops, then that could give the door for 10 English Premier League teams to go into European competition. So the Premier League will send 10 representatives to Europe next year if, the Europa League is won by Aston Villa and the Conference League is won by Crystal Palace. But Aston Villa will have to drop for there to be 10 teams to qualify. Given the current standings with Chelsea in ninth place and clubs like Crystal Palace and Aston Villa making deep European runs, this is more than just a math exercise. It is a very real possibility for the 2026-2027 campaign of European football in the Premier League. But yes, with Crystal Palace being in the position that they are at the moment, which is 14th place, if they win the Conference League, then a ninth spot will be given to the Premier League for European football next season. But then moving on, we have a Nottingham Forest against a Newcastle. Elliot Anderson, late strike, rescue a point for Forest after Harvey Barnes had given Newcastle a second half lead at the City Ground. Game that ended 1-1. Nottingham Forest occupies the 16th place with 43 points, keeping them 4 points clear of the relegation zone with 2 games remaining. Newcastle United stays in the 13th place with 46 points, safe from a drop, but disappointed to have fallen out of the European qualification race. Then we have a West Ham against an Arsenal. An Arsenal that wins as visitors. Leandro Trossard, 82nd minute goal, secure a massive 3 points for the Gunners. Sparkling jubilant scenes in the away end of the London Stadium. Arsenal sits firmly at the top of the table with 79 points and has now officially clinched Champions League football for next season. No duh, because they are in the final and then they are also first place in the Premier League. And West Ham remains in 18th place with 36 points, facing a desperate battle for survival in their final 2 fixtures. Everything will be played between Arsenal and West Ham in the next 2 match days, and they will be hoping that one or the other lose. West Ham will be hoping Tottenham lose because Tottenham is out of the relegation zone. And at the same time, Tottenham will hope that West Ham loses because Tottenham still will feel that pressure from West Ham. In this same game, in this Arsenal against West Ham, in this West Ham against Arsenal, a game that Arsenal wins as visitors, we had drama. And this is why the Premier League has been in a lot of talks lately, because of the VAR drama that has been happening this year. So much time has been consumed by this VAR. And in this game, VAR review that took 4 minutes and like 13 seconds, in a play that would have resulted in a tie of a game. And yes, the goal was taken away, not given to West Ham because it was a foul. But if the result would have stayed, it would have been a tie game and things would have put Arsenal under pressure in a situation with the Premier League title, of course. The VAR review was a foul, but that's just the surface of how much is going on in that specific play. For those that have watched the game, and you watch the game from just a football fan perspective, not a West Ham or an Arsenal fan, there's so much more going on in there. There is many actions that trickle down to Pablo holding on to Raya, yes. But there's other players holding Pablo too. So there is a lot going on. I would love to get an explanation on how the referees and the VAR officials judge this plays, because you're looking at just one action that, yes, translates to the goal, but there's so much more going on in there. The same way Pablo holds down Raya, there's other players that are holding Pablo. So how does that apply, and how are you viewing this situation? And yes, what it was it fair? Nothing is fair depending on who you support, whether it's West Ham or Arsenal. And what can I take from this situation is that the Premier League and the referee and the VAR officials have been very inconsistent this season, creating doubt, drama, and just no type of reliance on the officials and those that make part of the officials' body. I personally would not be confident to rely on the referees, not only the referees, but the VAR officials, that they are looking into this place. They have to have better judgment of the situations. But again, something I've been saying this whole season since we started this is part of the human error will dictate the outcome of certain games. In this one, that's exactly what we see, how they judge the situation. Better explanation has to come out from the VAR officials and at the same time the referee, because the referee is the one who accepts the call. The the VAR officials are the ones who look into the call. So is a very, very great area, but human error will always change the outcome no matter who you support. At this time, West Ham fans feel like they have been punished because they are in a situation where they are fighting and every point matters. While if this game ended up tie, Arsenal fans would have felt like they were punished because they are fighting for the title, a title that has taken them over a decade to be able to win. So it is understandable where both of these fan bases come from. But again, depending on who you support, you will feel like things are fair or things are unfair. But we go on to the last game of this Premier League, the last game that closed match day 36 of the Premier League. We have a Tottenham against Leeds, a Tottenham that ties at home 1-1 against Leeds, a draw that leaves the host Premier League future hanging in the balance. After a scoreless first half, Matthijs Tel gave Spurs the lead in the 50th minute with a stunning curling effort, only to later concede a penalty for a dangerous high foot challenge on Ethan Ampadu. Dominic Calvert-Lewin clinically converted in the 74th minute from the spot, ensuring points were shared. A Tottenham that is in the 17th place with 38 points, just 2 points above West Ham, and a Leeds that is in the 14th place. But this Premier League matchday 36 has essentially turned the season into a two-horse sprint for the title, while leaving the relegation battle in a state of absolute chaos. Arsenal maintained their lead at the top with a grueling 1-0 victory over West Ham at the London Stadium, thanks to a late Leandro Trossard strike in the 82nd minute. Manchester City kept the pressure high with a convincing 3-0 against Brentford, moving to 74 points with a crucial game in hand that could pull them within 2 points of Arsenal. The race for the final Champions League spots is now in a dead heat as Liverpool and Aston Villa are tied on 59 points following their respective draw against Chelsea and Burnley. And at the bottom, Tottenham finds itself in a precarious 17th place after 1-1 draw with Leeds, sitting just 2 points above the relegation zone as the season enters the final 2 weeks. But for this Premier League, Manchester City will be playing their extra game this week. They will be playing their extra game that they have on hand against Crystal Palace this week, just to push themselves 2 points away from Arsenal. That's if they win. And if they lose, as we see, that Arsenal has 5 points, that's where it will stay. But let's see how much can this Manchester City push since they tied. But that's all for this Premier League. A Premier League that will show that it will be defined all the way till the end, match day 38. Tottenham will decide if they stay or they go on match day 38. West Ham will decide if they stay or go on match day 38. Premier League is pushing to its last straw to make sure that all the viewers and followers of any Premier League team stay on top of this Premier League. This is all for today. Thank you to all of those that are always here with me. And if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Y para esos que no saben, esto es Pase Ambidiestro, Ambidextrous Pass, Fútbol Honestamente, Soccer, Fútbol Honestly. Muchas gracias, que tengan un buen día.